Hello, my name is Fundisile Serame, the founder and managing director of Technofundis. So at Technofundis, we support innovations that target low-income earners. Today, I invite you as I explore the idea of innovating business at the base of the pyramid. And quite often we hear people making reference to this section of the population as the BOP. Well, this is the billions of people that live in poverty around the world. Let's take, for instance, the latest Credit Suisse data of 2018, which suggests to us that 64% of the global population accounts for 1.9% of wealth. And we bring those numbers back home. In Africa alone, 90% of adult population is the base of the pyramid. And this is the entire population that has largely been underserved, largely ignored by business in the main, because the narrative has always been, for the longest of time, that no commercial model could be viable in the BOP because people are poor, and because people are poor, they cannot afford to pay for the services and products that they consume. Yet the base of the pyramid has been seen by many as a source of groundbreaking innovation, actually. It has been seen as a source of new market opportunity and socio-economic transformation. So what has become quite clear is the critical importance of innovation. And we are starting to see companies thinking differently about innovation and about organizing for innovation around inclusivity when serving these underserved populations. And because it has long ceased to make sense to focus on the needs of the wealthy when the bulk of the population is living in this part of in this market, we are then seeing firms starting to rethink the design and the development and the manufacturing and the distribution processes. So all these different processes are starting to change and take different forms and shape in the BOP market. And the whole concept of inclusive innovation is really beginning to take shape and gaining meaning in the BOP market. So how do we explore inclusive innovation at the base? Well, I suggest we turn to the growing literature around the BOP and also start to pay attention to the cases of both success and failure of these ventures that are operating at the BOP in practice. Because through those cases, we can really start to see what works and what doesn't work, especially for our context in Africa. And so the emerging theories and models that are starting to gain shape are suggesting that the biggest challenge for companies at the BOP is not to repackage existing products and sell those to the poor, but the biggest challenge is for business to understand how to become socially embedded, because the very opportunity that drives profits and growth is enabled by these social structures and the relationships that are formed in the market. So in other words, how you maximize the opportunity would largely depend on the relationships of trust that you build with the communities, with other actors in the ecosystem. So instead of pushing products and services to the poor, we're beginning to see more and more large companies bringing resources, bringing capabilities, and starting to make links and form ties with communities and other actors in the ecosystem. And more we're starting to see more partnership, more co-creation models that are emerging at that level. And so the evidence is there that the social embeddedness proposition is gaining momentum and it's gaining strength at the base. And it's really becoming even more and more difficult to argue against the value of networks and social relations at the base, because this has really become a critical mechanism to mitigate prospects of failure at that level. But doing business at the base requires high levels of innovation. Obviously, it requires high levels of simplicity and affordability of products and services. And this kind of opportunity that the BOP market is promising also creates the need for interdependence between large companies, SMMEs, startup companies, and entrepreneurs, to work together. And so, what then becomes a subject of inquiry and understanding is how all of these different components work together and use innovation to tap into the massive opportunity. But innovating at the base has implications for business, and it begins to raise a couple of questions. The first one is, what ought to be understood as value in low income markets? Who defines it? Can we start looking at what the locals are defining as value, and what are the different constructions of these meanings? What are the drivers of this value? And more importantly for business, is your organization well equipped to compete and innovate for this market? The second question is around innovation management practice. So as more and more companies are moving from user-based innovations to open and more collaborative innovations, what are the implications for commercialization of products? What are the implications for intellectual property for the innovators as they co-create and co-innovate and collaborate? And finally, the question I'm going to ask is, what are the emerging models that are quite effective in terms of organizing and managing innovation at that level? And I think the next time you see me, I would like to explore more of those questions and perhaps look at one or two cases of these models that are emerging. And I thank you for watching.